So in Screencast 4, I want to consider some of the economic characteristics of sport activity. So economists refer to goods as commodities, and commodities are kind of tradable, and consumers buy commodities. So I want to think about sport as a commodity. I'm going to say that sport does have some complexity because it displays several characteristics of different types of commodities. So it can be seen as, first of all, what's called a non-durable consumption good. It can also be viewed as a durable consumption good, and kind of linked to this idea of durable consumption good, it can be thought of as a capital good. So let's just try and explain some of these terms a little bit more. So, sport can be seen as a non-durable consumption good. And what this means is that the benefit that matters most to the consumer is what happens at the time of the experience, at the time that it is consumed. So, so this kind of means the enjoyment that you get in the moment. Okay, so it could be the euphoria that you get from watching your team win a match, score a goal, score a basket, win a race. As a participant, it could be the pure intrinsic joy that you get from doing something. You do it for its own joy, for its own benefit. It's intrinsically worthwhile to you. Now, this is linked to kind of something in kind of consumer demand as well, which we'll come back and talk about when we look at consumer demand. But people weigh up whether it's worth paying the price to watch or take part in a sport in terms of the satisfaction or utility they get from watching or taking part, right? And most participation in sport is also, we can categorise as a kind of non-durable consumption good, because most people do it because they derive more satisfaction from participation than it costs them to take part. You do it and you think, that was worth that amount of money because I got this much enjoyment or satisfaction out of it. So it's an economic exchange between the utility, the satisfaction, the enjoyment, and the price that you pay as a percentage of the overall money, revenue, income that you have available. So that's kind of sport as a non-durable consumption good, and that is best thought of as in the minute, enjoyment in the minute at the time of consumption. Okay, so that's sport as a non-durable consumption good. But sport can also be thought as a durable consumption good. So the more physical activity we do, the fitter, the healthier, the stronger that we get. And we need to do it consistently over time to, first of all, get stronger and fitter, and then maintain that sense of strength, fitness, well-being. Okay. So if you buy a durable good, like a car, and you don't maintain it, if you buy a house and you don't maintain it, its value decreases. It doesn't retain its value. So sport is a durable consumption good because taking part now builds up stock in the future. Okay. So we're seeing, but for both non-durable and durable consumption goods, we're seeing pleasure as the motivation for consumption. In one case, it's immediate pleasure, and the other, there's probably some kind of immediate satisfaction, but there's also a kind of deferred benefits pleasure. I'll live longer, I'll be healthier longer, I'll be able to have a good quality of life for longer. Okay. But some people, are out running around the park and they're hating it, they're not enjoying it at all. The likelihood is that they won't adhere to that pattern of activity, and that they will stop. But there is another motivation to consumption of sport that really has nothing to do with pleasure, and has everything to do with investing in yourself. So sport, in our third category, can be seen as a capital good. And this is one which yields a return, right? So a person might become fitter, which might lead to higher level payoffs in terms of increased productivity in the labour market, right? A person can invest in themselves, personal human capital. So investment in personal human capital is an economic term, which is derived from Becker's work, which is a kind of seminal work in 1964, human capital theory. If you take part in sport, for many people, that's an investment in your personal human capital. By doing this course, you are investing in your personal human capital to try and make yourself more valuable in the employment market. Yeah. So you'll have a greater utility in the employment market to prospective employers, where there may be a shortage of supply of people with your skills, but the market is demanding people with high skills. So that increases your value in the employment market, right? So let's just think a bit more about sport as a capital good and think about what evidence we've got for participation in sport and your value in the employment market. So this is work that was done by the Sport Injuries Research Centre, again, which shows the profile of this research centre in this area of study. And it was done on behalf of BUCS. So BUCS is British Universities, Colleges and College Sport, right? Which is responsible for organising university and college sport in the UK. So they've got an interest in promoting the value of sport within universities, right? So what CERC did in this 2013 report is they did some research and they looked at, in 2013, what the average income was in England, or in the UK, I think, actually, yeah? And they found that the average income the average income the average income was £31,584. Okay. Now, looking at the data source which they looked at, which I think may have been the Family Expenditure Survey or the Survey of Incomes, they separated that data set down into those people who were graduates and those people who were not graduates. So we can see that the non-graduate average salary was £27,000 and the average graduate salary was £39,000. So there you've got investment in human capital. Your investment in a degree, and postgraduate will push you higher again as well, but your investment in a degree should generate you, all things being equal, £12,000 per annum more income than someone who did not invest or was not able to access higher education. So investment in personal human capital there. And I've got to say that's one of the arguments for the kind of grant or the kind of loan system that we have in the UK now. So that's an aside anyway. Right, okay. Now, if we look then, so first of all, CERT looked at the effect of graduates, because BUCS is about graduates, about people who go to university. But BUCS wanted to look at the effect that taking part in sport had on someone's income. So what CERT then did is they looked at and they combined data to look at the effect that participation in sport at least once a week had on earnings, and participation and no participation in sport had. And what we can see is that graduates who did no sport earn below the average graduate salary based here, and that people who actually were graduates and took part in sport once a week actually earned, and if we, £3,000 more. And if we look at that, then what's that? That's kind of a 7 or 8% premium for people who take part in sport. So if you're taking part in sport, what are you doing? Well, you're stronger, healthier, fitter, so you might have less illness through your life, which might mean less sickness absence, which might mean you're able to earn more, or you're able to kind of, apply for jobs and be seen as a kind of better candidate. You're probably also better and more socially networked, because in participation in sport does involve creating and taking part in social networks as well. Right? And so you can see that, a graduate who takes part in sport at least once a week can expect to earn substantially more, than someone who doesn't take part in sport and is a non-graduate. So there's a big difference there. And also the other thing is that volunteering is also likely to boost or if you're a volunteer, you're also likely to earn more money. Now, this just could be that volunteers are more motivated people, as maybe people are who take part in sport, and this carries over into the employment side of things. You try hard in sport, you try hard in work. You're motivated as a person and you want to get involved as a volunteer. That probably means you want to get involved at work, which means you're more likely to get on. But anyway, this shows this idea that sport can be seen as a capital good, which is tradable in the job market, just as the way as your education. You are investing in yourselves through your education. You can also invest in yourself through sport. So sport has a personal return. We'll also look in future weeks, that's when we move beyond individual motivation, that sport can have a kind of wider social investment, social return on investment value, the SROI stuff that we've talked about earlier. So this means that for individuals, there can be some difficulties in sport consumption, right? So consumers can face a difficulty in making a rational decision when it comes to sport, because the benefits are kind of complicated and uncertain. They're in the future. And for some people, enjoy sport and they will do it, right? Some people may have not had a good experience of sport and have been turned off sport, and that's a separate issue. But some people enjoy sport purely intrinsically. Other people will have a different motivation, and it might be kind of, investment in their future health as a durable consumption good or as a capital good. But it's difficult always to kind of, make a rational decision because we can't see the benefits, Economics considers that consumers are knowledgeable and make rational choices. But with a complicated set of choices and benefits in sport, it's not always possible to make a rational choice, right? Because consumers are not likely to have sufficient knowledge about present and future benefits that will follow from taking part in sport. So participants have to decide whether satisfaction gained from taking part is greater than the price they have to pay. Other factors complicate this issue, and it's those kind of durable and capital and social benefits, right, that are difficult for consumers to handle. So some part of the benefit of taking part in sport is not accrued immediately, and the decision to participate depends on how we value today satisfaction and benefits that will be obtained in the future. And part of the rationale for government intervention in sport is, can we trust people to make sensible decisions in the market about what they should do, which is why government intervenes in sport policy and in education policy to ensure that physical education is part of the curriculum, to ensure that cheap and subsidised activities are available to try to get people to participate, to get those durable consumption benefits and those capital consumption benefits. So participation in sport usually gives aspects of all these benefits, but the relative weight will depend on individuals. Now, those ideas are some things that I want to come back to and discuss in the lecture next week, okay, when we talk about rationale for government intervention in the sport market. But what I want to do in Screencast 5 is introduce you to what we're going to be discussing in the face-to-face sessions this week. Okay, so in this screencast, I just want to introduce you to Screencast 5, which is Introduction to the Face-to-Face sessions, so that we don't take up too much time in that session explaining the task, because we've got to get into the room, wipe it down, clean it, and so on, and then leave early, so we only got 45 minutes in effect. So